7:10 at iFiber One News Radio. Good morning to you. I'm Jeff Slakey. Happy to have in studio with me today Randy Neatherlin, Mason County Commissioner in District 1. Good morning, Randy.
Good morning, Mason County.
How you doing?
Incredible.
So we were going to have a forum a couple weeks ago to get the candidates together, talk with them about some of the issues. That's when we had that big storm come through town, so we postponed it for the candidates' safety as well as the staff here at iFiber One. So we opened up this week, the morning show to allow all the candidates to come on and talk with me a little bit about some of the issues here. And Randy Neatherlin chose this time slot. Everybody had their choices, and this is the one Randy has. You'll see the rest of the schedule on iFiber1newsradio.com. Again, good morning to you, Randy. Nice to see you as always.
Good morning. I don't do a lot on Facebook, but I was looking at one of the posts for the storm.
Yeah.
My favorite one was the great storm of 2016 that showed three-piece lawn furniture, plastic, with the chair knocked over and said, we will rebuild
or something. Yeah, it didn't turn out to be as stormy as I think we all anticipated. You are running for re-election in District 1 for Mason County. First off, nice easy one to start us off. Why are you running for re-election here?
Well, over the last 3.5, almost 4 years, we've accomplished a lot. I mean, literally, we've been able to do things that I had only hoped and dreamed that we might be able to pull off, such as empowering the Sheriff's Department, increasing their budget. We increased the Sheriff's Department by 8 deputies, 6 corrections officers, 45 new vehicles. We've expended almost $2 million into the jail itself for expansions onto the jail and for fixing some of their issues. We've been able to reinvest some of our monies to bring services back to the community. We had some big issues, as you know, with the Belfair sewer, and being able to come up with a plan to finally fix that and try to get that off the backs of Mason County as a whole has been a big agenda item. And with all that getting done, that just being the tip of the iceberg, I just felt we have so much more to finish and get done. We have the bypass coming in. We have the new one-stop shop for all our building permits. We took our health department and our building department, put them together to put customer service to number one. There's a lot of things that we've been finally getting done that the county's needed for years. Got it done in one term, but we need to fortify it and make sure that it stays that way and benefits the community.
So you mentioned 8 new officers, 45 vehicles, 44% increase for the Sheriff's Office without raising taxes. So where'd that money come from?
Well, there's a couple of different ways. As you remember, when I first came in, it was interesting. We were bleeding money everywhere from different lawsuits and perk rulings. And my very first year was 15 minutes when we had to explain that we were $2.2 million deficient on our budget because a perk ruling had come through. Then, less than a week later, we find out that our past commission actually paid all of our employees 1099s as independent contractors, which you can't do that. So we had to come up with another $500,000 to cover the taxes and the like. One of the first things we did was stop the bleeding. There was a lot of money out there that we were losing. The next year, we were hit with a $3.2 million deficiency because it turned out that the past commission had paid a lot of money out of our equipment rental and revolving funds that they shouldn't have. They took some cash out of it for other things because of the hard times, and they didn't pay in like they were supposed to, so we had to come up with money like that. Well, instead, we found new ways to rework the system so we didn't have to contribute that money directly to it and still get the finding lifted off of us. Another thing we did was find new ways of bringing in money. I'll give you an example. We had a piece of property, a bunch of properties that a company wanted to buy. Hard pressed, it was $680,000 to $800,000 that they were offering for the property. I knew that didn't make any sense. They were all from all different areas. So we brought in aerial photographs of the area, and it didn't take me long to figure out it was timbered land. Well, we had some battles at the commission because we're not into timber. We're not into doing a lot of these other things, just wanted to sell it. And I was able to get one of the commissioners to go along with me, and we went to look at different options. And one of the things was to get a timber cruise. Well, that would have been $50,000, $60,000 for all this land. So what I came up with was the idea of going out for non-binding bid. So we went out for non-binding bid for logging companies. And when it came back, we got $1.28 million just for the logs. Plus, they reforested it. They did all the roads. Plus, they did all the surveying. They paid for all of that stuff. And we still get to keep the land. And in 30 years to 40 years, we can do it again. Things like that brought in more money. We have another situation where we had some subtitle land where somebody wanted to purchase it. It wasn't even on the market yet. Automatically, that makes me wonder what's its real value. They were looking at $94,000. We're expecting in another 2 to 3 years, we're going to get our first big check for our share because we went out for another non-binding bid of $3.7 million because it's gooey duck land. And it's being leased out for gooey duck. Plus, we collect $1,000 an acre on the 17-acre parcel each year.
Going back now to the sheriff's office, though, I want to go back to this. It still seems, all the stuff I'm reading in the journal across the street and on the various websites, that there still seems a lot to be at odds between the commission and the sheriff's office. If you've done all this stuff, all these new folks that are going to be working, all these new vehicles, this 44% increase, what is going on? Why is there such an odds? It's been from salaries to courtroom security even. It's been issues that you guys have seemed to have, at least in public. How did it get like this, other than some of the stuff that you just mentioned? And what is it all about? I mean, it just looks, in an optics standpoint, that you guys can't even work together.
Yeah. Well, and we do work together. The one thing that it comes down to is we do our job. The budget is the commission's job. Now, the sheriff's department may not like our decisions and what we do, but it is our job. And it is expected that we will be the people who watch over the money. One of the big divides happened when basically the sheriff was demanding a lot more money for his wages. At one point it was a little over $30,000. We just couldn't do it. This is Mason County. That's just not even realistic to ask that.
Wouldn't some of those numbers, though, get into line with the averages of the similar counties around the area?
No, not at all. Yeah, well, you can always pick one out and try to say that you should be receiving that. But the similar counties in the area, we have 7 comparables, to give you an example. 7 comparables. If he was to get that, he'd be above all of them. All of them. So we're talking about counties. We're a county of 60,000, 50,000 that's in the urban growth area under the sheriff's control. You're talking about places like Cowlitz County and Lewis County and Island County. Lewis County is at 74,000 people. Island County is at 84,000 people. And literally, we're talking about a 2% difference for them from where we're at right here. And they have that many more people. Now you're talking about paying more than another county that has 124,000 people. We are not like some of these other counties. And it would pay more than some of even the surrounding counties that have a lot more people. But the thing is this is Mason County. We know, as an elected official, we know what our jobs are when we run for office. We know what the pay is. As a matter of fact, since I've been in, the sheriff has received a 7% pay increase just since I've been in. The thing is that's only the tip of the iceberg, because that's only one issue. Another issue that occurred was during the process, it came to my attention, as our job is to watch the budget, that we had over $500,000 that we were giving for salaries that wasn't going to salaries. That's important. When you give an elected official money to hire people for a specific purpose, you need to have those people hired. But there's always going to be an issue with getting them hired, going through training. I'm good with all that. But if you don't spend the money on wages, then you bring it back to the county. You can't just spend it however you want. It has to be budgeted out. The people demand that money be watched over. And $500,000 is a lot of money. My job as county commissioner, when I see that, is to fix it. So what we did is we separated the budgets. You have your maintenance and operation budget, and you have your wages. Wages have to stay in wages. If we give you money for deputies, it has to go to deputies. If you don't, well, then give it back to the county, because maybe it can go for trash pickup, or maybe it can go for code enforcement, or maybe it can go for something else. But it can't just evaporate into new office furniture or workout equipment, whatever you want it to. It has to go through a budget process. That's expected of anybody that is handling the county's money and the people's money.
You talked a little bit ago about different ways that you were trying to get money into the county. One of them is kind of with some land things, and you were selling some timber and some other things. I want to talk now about the Heritage Museum, the idea of a Heritage Museum in the county. Are you in favor of a museum focusing on the heritage of Mason County?
Well, who wouldn't be in favor of a museum focusing on the heritage of Mason County? Where the question comes up is not that. The question is, should the county give this organization $1 million in property?
Should the county give this organization $1 million in property?
Yeah, that's one of the real questions.
That's the question.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a different question. That, unless you can show that there's a true benefit for that and that you are going to be able to bring tourism and bring money into here, I don't think so, no. $1 million, what we can do at the county with that amount of money is a huge amount of money.
So you're not in favor of granting land to the Mason County Historical Society for a heritage museum right now?
Again, that's a different question. You just asked about the $1 million. They've come in since, and they've talked about a smaller piece of land and a less valuable piece of land. The very first one that they wanted and were demanding, even if you've been to those meetings, they're demanding it, is a corner piece of property on Highway 101 and Highway 102, right on the corner, with one of the only large chunks of land that have all the services already there to provide for it. So a hotel can come in there, or some other one can come in there, and it's our responsibility to get the most out of that property as we can. It belongs to the people. So when you're talking about a less valuable piece of property, well, then my mind is open, but you still have to prove that you have a good business model and that we're not just giving money just for laughs. The idea that a heritage museum is important to the community, yes, it is. But are these people the ones that are going to pull it off? And is it truly valuable enough to give $250,000 or $500,000 piece of land? It's our job to make sure that it's done right, not just done willy-nilly because somebody's yelling at me.
I want to talk about the homeless in Mason County a little bit. Terry Jeffries has been working closely with Thurston County and Commissioner Bud Blake on the behavioral health organization Triage Center. Do you think that's a good thing? What are you doing specifically as a county commissioner for homeless here in the county?
Well, especially for homeless itself. First of all, the question on if I think it's a good thing, because it is controversial, because the idea of bringing it into the downtown Shelton area, it's very important that we do, though. The reason why I know it doesn't make people comfortable, but this is where all the services are. You have to have the people where the services are, because trying to get around and traveling for half an hour makes it pretty difficult. That's why they're looking at bringing it here. As for the homeless, we actually at the county have done a lot. I was one that brought forward the idea of $100,000 so we could have the veterans housing out here for homeless vets. So we were able to move forward with that, and as you know, Homes First ended up teaming up with the county. They were able to purchase the land, and so they're put together this homeless area for veterans, some housing, but they're also working on being able to have a transient housing as well. This next year we're looking at $85,000 to go into the north end. So we're trying to partner up and do the same thing up north. But the truth of the matter is, our homeless issue is so huge, it would take most of the county's money if we were to try to solve it. But what we can do is just one piece at a time, like we are doing. Up where I live in North Mason, especially the veterans, we have a lot of them that are living out in the woods, and they don't want to be out of the woods. They want to live there. I know that sounds different for you and I, but they don't like the real world, and they don't want to be a part of that. So they live out there and they come in. I'm hoping that with this next investment into the community, we're able to get some of them out of the woods and give them an opportunity to move forward.
I want to talk to you a little bit about the 35th district race. You're listed as an independent on your pamphlets and flyers for folks for re-election here. Can you tell me who you're supporting in the 35th district races?
Who I'm supporting? For the most part, I think the status quo, the ones that are already in there. I've been able to work with them. Sometimes you have issues with them, but then you get down and you get things done. Right now, I've had a meeting with Drew McEwen, and we were able to smooth over some of the issues that we had to be able to move forward and work together. I appreciate being able to, go into their offices and get things done for Mason County. You just never know about the others until they get in there. But as you know, it's not about them being Republican or Democrat. I'll work with anybody. And if somebody else wins and gets in there, I'll be working with them. I have no issue with any of them that are running.
So either any of the candidates get in for the 35th district race. Now we're going to talk about the Belfair Bypass. Mm-hmm. It's on the list now, I think, for this year or next year to maybe start to see some money come in. If that gets pushed down the line, well, we don't have the funds this year. It gets kicked down the can again. What are you going to do as a county commissioner from that area, Belfair, mm-hmm. go to the state capitol, fight for this thing?
We already do. Please bear in mind, one of the reasons why we were so successful is we created a group called the West Sound Alliance, which is a group of elected officials from the upper region, up by from the shipyard industrial corridor, basically, with the idea that by getting Pierce County and Kitsap County to ask for our projects, we would have a bigger influence over some of the elected officials down in Olympia. Our elected officials that we have right now in the House, they voted against certain aspects of that when the gas tax came around, and I don't blame them. They were not for the gas tax. I wasn't for the gas tax, but I believed that it was going to come through. And my job as a county commissioner was to try and make sure that all my projects for my community was in there, regardless of whether I wanted a gas tax or not. So I don't begrudge them or any of that, but we can't just wait for them and go only off of their decisions. We as a county have to be more proactive than that, as we have done. It's pretty powerful when you go into a Seattle legislator's office and you have somebody from Pierce County, from Tacoma, literally saying, we have to have the Belfair Bypass. We have to have the Simmons Road 101 road connector up here. We have to have these projects. That's more powerful than just Mason County going, would you give me a hand? You know, what makes it, to show you how successful we were, Kitsap County got, what, 45 million total, 5.3 million for their transit, for example. The rest went for the 305 corridor. And here at Mason County, if you combine all of it, we got close to 100 million. You know, our transit got $9.8 million. And our transit's nothing in comparison to Kitsap County. But it was the way that we all worked together and pulled together to negotiate and do the best we can for the county. So if they tried to move it, well, we just have to, stick it out and fight again. But it's a little harder to move it now because now it's in statute. This is different than any other time in the past. And the money is expected to start coming in, not next year, but in 2019. Yeah, we have a little over $10.8 million coming in for the purchase of the right-of-way and the final design. Then the next biennium will be in the $35 million range, and then the rest of it in the next biennium after that.
Finally, you have 1 minute to tell me why voters should pick you this election season one more time.
Well, I know at times that I'm not always the sweetest and nicest guy, but at the same time, if you ever come into my office, you're always treated with respect. You're always taken care of. I don't care if you're Republican, if you're Democrat. If you give a good enough argument, I'll not only stand behind you, but I'll help move it forward, and we've been very successful in doing that. As I said before, people always say that you can never get nothing done in government. Well, I hope my actions have proved differently. Not just the investment into our law enforcement. You know, $9.7 million in 2012 was their budget. $14 million is their budget now. We're also talking about now you can go out and build a garage, 24 by 24, or if it's agriculture, 24 by 36 without a permit. You know, we've changed the whole dynamic of Mason County to where you come in now, you are treated with absolute respect from each area of our county. And if you're not, then we as a commission, we do step in to try and do something about it. The reason why I'd hope that they would bring me back again is the idea that I've done so much in one term. Imagine what I'll be able to get done in the second. Success is something that we all hope to accomplish. This first term has been very productive. And I hope they'll give me a chance to do even more the next term.
Randy Neatherlin is a Mason County Commissioner for District 1 and running for re-election. You'll see his name on your ballots, which you should have in the mail today.